Okay, so let's begin by having you give your name and when you attended West Warren.
Okay, my name is Janet Thomas Taylor, also known as Peanut, and I attended West Ward 1951 through 1952.
Okay, did you attend any other elementary school?
Dalrymple.
Okay. How many years were you there?
From second grade until sixth grade. So from 52 to, I don't know,
Yeah. Okay.
58, something
Yeah,
like that.
something like that. Okay.
58, yes.
You have brothers, sisters?
Yes, I have one brother, Julius, and 4 sisters.
Did they go to West Warren?
Judy did. She's the oldest, so she went, and the other ones went to Dalrymple.
Okay. So when you went to school, who did you walk with? Or was it just you, Judy?
It was me and Judy. We walked from Gaston Court, and we also walked with Wayne Dixon and Bummy,
Yeah.
Joseph Robinson.
Yeah.
We had nicknames when we were coming up, so Larry and Sylvia Davis. We would walk with them, and we would walk like down Gaston Court through a path, and we would get on Erie Street, and then we would walk down Erie and go to Dalrymple.
Okay.
On Dalrymple.
Okay, and which way did you go to when you went to West Warren?
When we went to West Ward, we left Gaston Court, we went up to Cass Street, and we just walked up Cass Street, walked across onto the school grounds.
Okay. Talking about West Warren, as best you can remember since you were very young, what was a typical day like for you in school?
With me being so young, I don't really remember what a typical day was. I just remember going outside, playing on the swings, playing on the merry-go-round.
Okay, so playing outside was a big thing.
Big thing for a 5-year-old. At least that's.
While you were playing, do you remember ever smelling stuff from the factory, from Gale, or getting anything in your eyes?
We got that, I don't know what it was, but we got that stuff like sand in our eyes, and we could see the black smoke coming from the Gale, and we would be all sooty and stuff, but I just remember that stuff getting in my eyes and burning my eyes.
Okay. So who were your teachers?
Miss Biggs was my teacher, but I remember that Miss Stewart was a teacher. I remember Miss Ferguson was a teacher. Miss Holmes, I think she was the principal. I remember Miss Vest, but she wasn't my teacher. I remember her.
Okay.
And I think that's about all I can remember.
So, since you had Miss Biggs as your teacher, what do you remember, if anything, most about her classes?
She was mean. she was mean, you know. With me being a kid, you know, she would yell at us. So you thinking she's mean, and I can remember her taking some of the boys, and they would have to sit under her desk.
Okay.
And I remember that.
Okay. Do you remember any classroom activities?
The only thing that I can remember, we had a play, and Marion Wheeler was in this play, and I can remember she had brought some cookies, and he had to eat this cookie, and it had like a raspberry filling in it, and I think it was a Christmas play, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I just remember that.
Did you form any impressions of the other teachers, even though you didn't have them in class?
Well, Miss Ferguson, because she lived on our street, and she was always a very nice teacher. I can remember her being just so nice to others.
Did you know who the custodian was when you were there?
No,
Okay.
I can't remember.
What about, were you in any activities with kids from other elementary schools?
No.
Okay. Some of us remember having, like, visiting teachers who would come in and, I don't know, once a month maybe, and they would do maybe an art class or a music class. Do you recall
No, I don't recall that.
anything like that? Okay. Did you have any contact with any of the teachers outside of the school itself?
Well, kind of Miss Biggs, because she was friends with my mother.
Okay.
Yeah, she was friends with Mama. So
Okay.
she would come by, you know, and they would visit.
Were any of your teachers in the church you went to?
I think Maddie Bess was. I think she was a member of Lewis Chapel, I'm not sure.
Okay.
That was Uncle Bounce's auntie, I think.
Yeah,
And
it was.
I think they went to Lewis Chapel.
Okay. We were talking about being outdoors and recess. Do you recall, like, a Halloween party or Thanksgiving party at school at Westward?
No, I don't.
Okay. If you think about, let's see, I think the most common group that people have talked about is safety patrol. Were you aware of, you were probably too young to participate in safety patrol.
Right, at Westward.
At Westward,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
Any other kind of groups in the school for young kids?
At Westward, or,
Mhm.
no, not that I can recall.
Okay. Do you ever recall people coming from the college and like taking your class or kids from your class up there for
No.
any activity? Not at all.
Not at all. no.
Okay. Well, here's something you'll remember. What about lunch? Did you eat at school or did you walk back home when you were at
We
West
walked
Park?
back home.
Okay. And that was your routine?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember how much time you had to go home and get back to school, roughly?
I want to say roughly a half an hour.
Okay. Okay. We also talked with some other people about a nutrition break that you would have in school. I think it was in the morning, where they would serve some kind of a snack.
Not that I recall it at Westward.
At Westward,
Just
yeah.
at their uncle.
Okay. I want to go back to recess with you. When you went outside, you mentioned the merry-go-round. What were all the things you could play on?
This one merry-go-round, it was had a wooden bottom. It had iron rails, and you would step on it and hold on, and somebody would just push it for you and
Yeah.
push you around. And then we had the swings, and I remember the baseball field. If I make no mistake, that barrier is still up there.
Okay, could be.
I think it is. That's where we used to play baseball. And on the side where Cass Street would be,
Mhm.
what was that? The monkey bars, I think, were there.
Okay.
But I'm not sure.
Okay. Do you recall there being trees?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Big old cottonwood trees.
Wasn't it?
In front of the building, because, you know, Reverend Wheeler, they lived across the street that I can recall.
Yeah.
So Mary and Junior would come over, and there were big trees right there
Okay.
on the side, yeah,
Okay.
big trees.
Do you recall that in the building, what did you do with your coat and your boots and all that?
I think we hung them up outside. Like there was a coat rack with hooks where you could hang your stuff up at.
Okay, and that was before you would go to Miss Biggs'
Mhm.
class?
We go to her class.
Okay. Now, this is something, and you may have been too young, or you may have heard it later. There was a story circulating that was designed to scare us and keep us from going on the playground, like in the evening or towards dark. And there's a story about an old woman and her pigs, and that if we got caught on the school grounds towards sundown, we'd be chased away. Did you ever hear
No,
anything?
never
You
heard
were
of
probably
that.
too young.
Never heard of that.
Okay.
Never heard of that.
Yeah, Willie and I were talking,
Mhm.
she remembered it.
Okay, no, I didn't remember that.
Okay, about the building itself, did it strike you as cheerful or gloomy?
Gloomy. I remember it being kind of gloomy,
Okay,
especially if it would rain, because it would rain in there. And they had pigeons in there. I remember pigeons being in there somehow.
inside?
Yeah. When it got to, I think maybe I was going in the first grade, you know, they would nest or whatever you call it, they would get in somehow in the cracks and stuff.
Okay,
And then mice were in there. I never saw them, but, you know, Judy would come home and say, you know, it was a mouse bowl, they called them rats. There was
Yeah.
a rat in the building.
okay. Did you, ever go into the basement?
No.
Or did you even know there was
No,
a
they
basement?
had a basement, no.
Okay.
They never had a basement.
Okay. Again, you know, you were very young. Do you remember anything about the condition of the books you got? Do you remember anything about the books that you used in school and whether they look new or?
No, I wouldn't remember that.
Okay. Now, you were there for the closing
Yes.
of the school. As best you can recall, were there discussions in your home about like keeping you out or making you go?
Not that I can remember.
Or anything about the upcoming boycott, or that some people were gonna keep their kids out?
I don't remember Mom and Daddy talking about
Talking about that at all?
I
Okay.
guess they just kept it from us, you know,
Mhm.
when we knew anything, we were going to their uncle's school,
Okay, so you went directly from Westmore to Dalrymple?
as far as I know.
Okay.
And Miss Weiss was my second grade
Second
teacher.
grade teacher,
Mhm.
okay. When you made the transition from West Ward to Dalrymple, was it comfortable for you?
As far as I know, it was it, you know,
Yeah, I mean,
as just a
it's
kid going to
yeah.
school, I didn't know any better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I just knew we had to go to a new school.
Right. Let's talk about your family a little bit. Were you born in Albion?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How did your family get to Albion, or why?
Okay, I don't remember the year, but my granddaddy, Julius Gant, was approached by some people from the Gale. They went down to Florida, Pensacola,
Mhm.
Florida, and they rounded up the Negroes and brought them back to Michigan to give them jobs at the Malibu or the Gale. So I remember Mama saying Granddaddy came up here, Julius Gant, and he got a job at the Malibu, and he sent for them, and they came up, and I think Mama was 7, so she was born in 1920, so about 1927 is when they migrated from Florida
Okay,
to Michigan.
okay. And, did your father work?
He
in
worked
the
at
Malibu or
Malibu too,
Gale?
yeah, he worked at the Malibu.
Okay.
And I don't remember what year he came up
Mm-hmm.
here, I don't remember that.
And he retired from that?
He retired, oh gosh. I don't even know what year Daddy retired, but he worked 37 and a half years.
That was my next question.
Okay, and never missed a day.
Wow.
I have this plaque at home. When he retired, they gave it to him. It's a picture of him. He's shaking, I can't remember the man's hand, but it was for 37 and a half years of perfect attendance
Wow.
at the Malibu.
Wow. Wow, okay. Uh, do you remember, like, did he take his own lunch? Did you ever have an occasion to
Ooh,
go?
we took the lunch. Oh, I couldn't wait to take my daddy's lunch because we lived in Gaston Court,
Yeah.
and we would take the long way. We would walk down Cass going towards Gale, go down Gale, and walk across that trestle.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we walk across that trestle. I love that trestle. and the train would come across it. Did you know that trestle and those train tracks went across Erie Street
Mm-hmm.
down there by the nursing home?
Yeah, right.
And went all the way out towards Homer.
Homer.
We walked that track for a long time.
Yeah.
And we found Indian head nickels, we found pennies, but yeah, I would take Daddy's lunch and I couldn't wait to get a piece of his sandwich.
Well, you got to eat
Yeah,
it,
we
too.
got to eat it.
Yeah.
And then after we took his lunch, then we walked back down Elgin Street,
Okay.
going back home. But we always took the trestle, we took the long way.
Yeah.
And he would eat at, I think he had to eat at 11:15, so by 10:30 we had to strike out.
Yeah. Did you ever, and this includes later as an adult or young person, have an occasion to go on a tour in the Malibu?
I had a chance to go on a tour. And I got so far, I got inside, and then I heard all that noise, I saw all those sparks, and I got sick and had to turn around and run out of there. That's as far as I couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't do it.
Do you remember, was this while you
I was
were?
grown.
Oh, you were grown.
Yeah, I was grown, but I don't think I had married yet, but,
Mm-hmm.
oh, maybe I tried to, but I just couldn't. It was just
Yeah,
too much for me.
yeah. Did your dad ever tell you stories about what it was like working in there?
He didn't, but a lot of times Daddy would come home and he would be burnt on his legs, on his feet,
Mhm.
where all that hot iron, they were
Splash.
hammering and all that stuff would just fall back on him and he would be pure dirty. He would be black.
Yeah,
You know, glasses would be on and this part would be his skin. Everything else was that dirt. It was in his nose, it was in his hair,
Mhm.
clothes, the bed, everything was dirty because
Yeah.
of what they were doing. I guess it was that core.
yeah.
They were breaking those cores, yeah.
Did did he develop any problems like with hearing or anything?
No, he didn't, but my cousin Oscar Brown got, is it silicosis?
Yeah.
That's what he developed that working down at the Malibu. So
Yeah.
he went out young and early.
Right.
Yeah.
I think my uncle did develop it
Mhm.
as well.
Mhm.
Okay. So have you been back to Pensacola?
I've never been to
They
Pensacola.
never took you down there?
Never been to Pensacola.
Cause that's where my mother's from too. And when we were 15,
Okay.
when I was 15, she always said she wanted us to see her home.
Oh,
you know,
okay,
so
no,
she took
never
us
went
down.
back. No, I mean, never been there.
Been there,
Mhm.
okay. You have something?
This was great. I'm wondering if you have any particular special memories about the school that might be particular just to you, and also I know you walked to school with neighbors. Did you have a particular good friend that you chummed with
You mean
at Westward?
Veronica Foster Wheeler. We were good friends. And, oh gosh, who else? Belle, she's the older.
Belle Foster.
Belle and, well, Beverly.
Yeah.
You know, we
Yeah.
got them nicknames, so. She's Belle and Veronica's Ronnie, because we were classmates. And that's about all I can think of, you know, because they went too for about the same, Ronnie did about the same length of time that I went. So.
Okay.
So did you have special things at recess that you would go to that friend and
Well, I
chum
had a
with
lot
that
of boys that I hung with, and I liked to shoot marbles. I remember shooting marbles. And remember you draw a line?
Oh, yeah.
And laugh,
Yeah.
and whoever got close, go shoot first.
Yeah.
And the cat eye marbles, I remember cat eyes.
You ever have a Steely?
Steely, yeah, Steely. Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
I used to love the blue cat eye with the white eye in it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we had love my marbles.
Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you about. Do you remember going to Bob Pearson's store?
I was just gonna say something about that store. Then I remember going to Bob's store, and we had a bill,
Mhm.
and they could pay on Fridays. And I used to have to go get a nickel's worth of bologna. We could get a quarter worth of potatoes, white potatoes. We could get bread, iced potatoes. A lot of people, the older people called them iced potatoes, but they were the white potatoes. And we could get butter, and the milk would come. The milkman used to bring the milk,
Mhm.
and with the cream on it, and
Yeah.
it would rise to the top, you
Yeah,
know.
sure.
But yeah, we used to go to Bob's store all the time, and we could be walking down the street, and the guys over at the Gale,
Mhm.
hey, come here, little girl, come here. And we go over to the fence, go in there and get me an RC.
Oh, yeah.
Go
I
get me an
forgot about
RC.
that. That's
You know,
right.
so we would go to the store, we would buy them snacks and stuff.
Yeah, take it across the fence.
BMO potato chips. Roundtree used to be the best bologna in town. A company called Roundtree, I can remember that.
Yeah.
And we would get Baby Ruth's, O. Henry's, and there would be a nickel. Snickers was always my favorite candy bar at that time.
Oh, do you remember Silver Cup bread?
Yes, Silver Cup bread. Tell you what we did with the Silver Cup bread wrapper and Wonder Bread.
Yeah.
One of those had like a little scratch off, and you could win something on it.
Okay.
I remember that. We would take the wrapper from the bread, put it on our feet, wrap our feet up, put our feet in our boots to walk to school, so our feet wouldn't get so cold.
Yeah.
Because we had to walk when we got into, high school, and when we
Oh,
were
sure.
there, we had to walk up to Westward also.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Silver Cup and what else? Oxidol and Tide, Bob carried a lot of that stuff at the store.
Yeah.
And people would drop money in his register or between
On the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you go in there, you're lucky enough to look down. Oh, there's a quarter. That was a lot of money. We could buy BB Bats. You remember BB Bats?
Yes.
And Kit Kats.
Yeah.
Which was the little
Squares.
yeah.
Yeah.
There would be banana ones
And
and the pink strawberry
Pink,
ones.
yeah.
So if you found a quarter, you could buy you a whole bunch. Yeah, those were the good old days.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. When you look back on the old neighborhood, how do you remember that?
When I look back on the old neighborhood and the house that we lived in, I wondered, how did we make it? Let's see. It was Judy, me, Fella, Joyce. And then when Jackie and Jewel came along, we were on Albion Street by then. But the 4 kids, we were all in Gasson Court. Fella being the only boy, he slept by himself, but me, Judy, Joyce had to sleep in the same bed. And Joyce wet the bed, and we didn't like that, and we would be freezing in the wintertime because we had one stove, and that was like in your front room,
Mhm.
and it was a big old black potbelly stove. We would have to go in the cellar because we didn't have a basement. We'd have to crawl in the cellar to get the wood and the coal, and come in there and make a fire, and put kerosene.
Yeah.
And one day, I was putting the kerosene in, and I struck a match, and I put the match in there, woof, burnt my eyebrows, my eyelids. I walked around with, I scorched my eyelids,
Yeah.
But that was the only way we could keep warm. And, sometimes I look back on this and say, like I say, how did we make it? We should have been dead in there. Because, the pipes were getting as hot as my jacket.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And those pipes went from that stove into the wall with like a pie plate or something
Yeah.
around it. And that pipe would be red hot.
Yeah, into the chimney.
And we lucky to be alive because we could have died from carbon monoxide poisoning, anything. But we made it.
Oh, yeah.
We made it.
Yeah. So that was the pot-belly
Stove,
stove
in the living room.
Now, you also had a cooking stove?
We had electric stove.
You were modern. You had electric.
We had well, finally he switched over to, he went from the pot-bellied stove to oil.
Okay.
We had an oil tank or whatever you want to call it, but we had electric stove in the kitchen. I remember
Okay.
cooking on that when I was 8 years old. I remember
Wow.
cooking for the whole family.
Right.
That's when I learned how to cook, when I was 8.
Wow.
And Mama worked at the college, so, we had to fend for ourselves.
Yeah. And did you have a sense of being safe in the
Oh
community?
yeah, we were safe. We didn't have any problem. And if I wasn't doing something right, and if your mother saw me, she could tell Alice,
Mhm.
and Alice would say, you wait till time you get home. Because Mama wouldn't whoop us.
Uh,
She would wait till Daddy got home. And Daddy came to whoop me one day, but he had to get me down from a tree. Because I climbed the tree and I told him, I am not coming down. He said, well, you got to come down sooner or later. So when I did, he's on down out the tree. We got whoopings, Bobby. You hear me?
Yeah.
I'm talking about whoopings where now it would be considered child abuse. But back then,
Yeah.
it was you did something wrong and you getting your butt beat. And that's
Yeah.
what we got whipped with switches.
Yeah.
And they left webs on us.
Yeah.
Them things hurt.
Made you do good.
Made you do right. And if you got him a switch and it broke when he hit you the first time, you had to go get another one.
Oh, sure.
That's just how it was back then.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, yeah.
we were taught to respect people. And if you didn't respect folks, you got it. You got it.
Yeah.
You got it.
Oh, good. I think that about wraps it up.
One quick question
Okay.
about when you went over to Dalrymple, do you have any recollections of going into the new school
Oh,
and the
yeah.
changes that, so?
I knew they had a gym. They had a basement. That's where the library was. We would go in on the Dalrymple side, which was where the kindergartners were. And then we'd walk down that long hall and up some steps, and that's where my class was. My second grade class was on on the second level. And then on the third level was the 5th and the 6th graders. And I remember Mr. Scobie gave me my nickname Peanut when I was in the 4th grade, and I've had it ever since. And I remember Miss Weiss. I can't think of my 3rd grade teacher right now. 4th was Scobie. 5th was, they were a husband and wife team, and they left here and moved to Lansing. Miss Haas. Miss Haas was my 6th grade teacher that owned Haas's Trucking. She was my 6th grade teacher. No, Miss Bonita Felton was my 6th grade teacher. Miss Haas was my 5th grade teacher.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you were in 5th grade, do you recall there being an opportunity to go to camp?
Camp, yeah.
Did you go?
I couldn't go.
Did you want to go?
The way they had it, that I remember, Judy got a chance to go to Clear Lake Camp.
Right.
And it cost $12.50 for her to go for that whole week. That was a lot of money. So when I got in 5th grade, I couldn't go because it was every other year.
Okay.
So I missed out on going.
Okay.
So I didn't get a chance to go.
All right.
And every time I think of a Forsythia bush, it always takes me back to the path that when we walked down Gasson Court and going through the path between Miss Smith, Mrs. Charles Smith,
Yeah.
and Mr. and Mrs. Hartley.
Yeah, I've forgotten that.
There was a Forsythia bush there, and every time I see that Forsythia bush anywhere, it takes me back to that time.
Yeah.
That's how we went to Dalrymple.
Okay.
When we got a little bit older, we took a different route.
Okay, so then you went past the McIntosh, huh?
And the little pond with the fish in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That was Rosemary. Her parents stayed there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
So when you got to Dalrymple, just one quick question. When you got to Dalrymple, did you keep the close friends that you had at Westward? Or
Well, yeah,
did you build
because
some
they
new
followed,
ones?
and then I made some new ones. And this time we made white friends because we didn't have any white kids going to Westward. So Karen Yankee, she became a friend. She's still a good friend after over 50 years, over 60 years. Gail Nestor, they left here and moved to Florida. Shan Gardner, Ann Chauncey, David King, he was a good buddy, he's passed away now. Norman Young, those were some of the friends and Sheila Andrews, some of the friends I made at Dalrymple School that I still see sometime. We reminisce about it, and
Yeah.
I passed Dalrymple and, just shake your head. And Mr. Hall was the janitor,
Okay.
and Mr. McAuliffe, they were the janitors at that time. And Mary Garza was the cook.
So Mr. Hall was a janitor at Dalrymple?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
because he had been one at Westport.
See, I don't remember that, but when he left Dalrymple, he went over to Crowell,
Right.
and he became the best janitor that Albion ever had.
Okay. Well, thank you. It's been
Real nice to reminisce.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember you and Francis.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's the one who reminded me of that story about the old woman and the pigs.
No, I never heard that one.
Oh,
And let's see, did your mother teach?
piano.
And to this day, I regret that I hated piano lessons.
Me too.
I wished I could have,
Mhm.
but you don't think about it, cost 50 cents. But I remember one thing, stepping up, stepping down, then a skip. We had to go on Saturdays,
Mm-hmm.
and I did not like piano. But
Coming into your time.
now, I could be jamming if I knew how to play.
Okay.